Disclaimer: this fictional story is presented for entertainment only. Every character, company, trust, transaction, and circumstance is invented. It does not describe actual people, institutions, legal disputes, or financial advice. Story: millionaire husband texted, "Don't wait up. I'm working late." Pregnant wife replied, "Tell her I said hi." 6 words from a millionaire husband. 5 words from the pregnant wife, who suddenly realizes she may not know what he has done with their future. Stay with Evelyn, because the late-night meeting she discovers will lead to a 6-figure pledge, a family trust, and a question older than money. When does protection become control? If thoughtful stories about marriage, family, and accountability matter to you, subscribe to Millionaire Stories and stay to the final choice. Evelyn Callahan was 39 and 7 months pregnant when a name from her husband's past appeared on the screen of their family tablet. Until that moment, the evening had been ordinary. Rain tapped against the windows of their home outside Seattle. A pot of tea cooled beside Evelyn's chair. A stack of thank you notes from the baby shower rested on the coffee table. Her husband, Sebastian Whitmore, was supposed to be home by 8. At 8:11, her phone vibrated. "Don't wait up. I'm working late." Evelyn stared at the message. Then the tablet chimed. A synced car service receipt appeared in the notification bar. Drop OFF, Fairmont Olympic. Passenger note: meet Natalie K. Evelyn's fingers went cold. Natalie Kensington. Sebastian had spoken that name only once in the 6 years they had been married. She had been his girlfriend in his 30s and, for a period, one of his closest business advisors. Their relationship ended before he met Evelyn, or so Evelyn believed. She opened Sebastian's text and typed, "Tell her I said hi." He called almost immediately. "Evelyn." "Yes." "What do you mean? You're at the Fairmont with Natalie." A pause. "How do you know that?" "Interesting first question. It's a business meeting." "Then why did you tell me you were working late instead of telling me you were meeting Natalie?" "I didn't want you to worry." Evelyn closed her eyes. There it was. The phrase Sebastian used whenever he wanted to make a decision without inviting another person into it. "I'm already worried. Nothing is happening." "You don't get to define nothing before you tell me what something is." "Evelyn, please. I'll be home soon." "Good night, Sebastian." She ended the call. The baby kicked. Evelyn placed both hands over her stomach. For years, she had thought of Sebastian's decisiveness as one of his greatest strengths. He could enter a room filled with uncertainty and leave with a plan. He had built Whitmore Capital, a private investment firm that made him a multimillionaire by seeing possibilities before other people did. He was also the sole individual trustee of the Whitmore Family Trust, created years earlier by his late mother for the benefit of Sebastian, his spouse, and future descendants. Evelyn had never paid much attention to the trust. That was about to change. Sebastian returned at 10:36. He found her at the kitchen table. "No shouting?" he asked carefully. Evelyn looked at him. "Were you expecting it?" "I know how this looks." "No. You know how you hope it looks." He sat across from her. "Natalie brought us an acquisition opportunity." "What kind?" "A medical technology company." "Why are you involved?" "Whitmore Capital may lead the financing." "And Natalie?" "Her advisory firm represents the seller." Evelyn absorbed that. "Have you been meeting her often?" "A few times." "How many?" Sebastian hesitated. 6 or 7. "In how long?" 3 months. Evelyn laughed once, without humor. "You had 7 chances to tell me. I knew her history would make you uncomfortable." "Your secrecy is what makes me uncomfortable." "She is not a threat to our marriage." "Then stop asking me to trust a conclusion while withholding the facts." Sebastian leaned back. "This deal is important." Evelyn looked at him. "So is this marriage." He did not answer. The next morning, Evelyn did not search his phone. She did not call Natalie. She did not follow him. Instead, she opened the family records. The Whitmore Family Trust sent annual summaries to both Sebastian and Evelyn because Evelyn was a current beneficiary and their future children were within the beneficiary class described in the trust instrument. Most of the reports were boring. Market values, income, distributions, administrative fees. One line was not. Private credit support. Arbor MedTech Acquisition Fund $600,000 pledged. Evelyn stared at the figure. She read the note beneath it. Diversified credit support within Trustee Investment Authority. She had never heard of Arbor MedTech Acquisition Fund. She searched the shared household correspondence. A letter from the trust custodian referenced a pledge agreement signed by Sebastian. The collateral was part of a brokerage portfolio held inside the trust. Evelyn felt her heart race. She stopped reading. Not because she wanted to avoid the truth. Because she knew enough to know she did not understand the legal meaning. She called her Aunt Ruth. Ruth Callahan was 67, a retired CPA, and the least excitable person in Evelyn's family. She arrived carrying coffee and a notebook. Evelyn showed her the trust summary, the custodian letter, and the public information about the medical company. Ruth read everything twice. Do you know whether the trust allows this? No. Do you know whether another trustee had to approve it? No. Do you know whether Natalie benefits if the acquisition closes? No. Evelyn shook her head. I know almost nothing. Ruth closed the folder. That is better than pretending you know more. She recommended Laura Mendoza, an estate and family wealth attorney. Laura was 59 and began their first meeting with a warning. A trust is not a dramatic prop. The rights and duties depend on the document and the law governing it. We read first. We characterized later. Evelyn almost smiled. That was exactly what she needed. Laura reviewed the trust instrument and confirmed that its principal administration was in Washington. The trust was irrevocable. Sebastian had broad investment authority, but one provision granted an independent trust director, called the trust protector, in Eleanor Whitmore's document, a power of direction over certain conflicted transactions. If the trustee wanted to pledge more than a stated percentage of trust assets to support a transaction involving a person with whom he had a significant personal or financial relationship, that independent review had to occur first. The document also allowed the trust director to require a special fiduciary for a conflicted transaction. Natalie's role might trigger that provision, or it might not. They needed facts. Laura contacted the independent trust director, retired Judge Diane Mercer, through formal channels. She also asked Sebastian for a full accounting of the pledge. Sebastian came home furious. You involved Diane? I involved the person the trust document says exists for this exact reason. This is not an emergency. Then the review should be simple. You could have asked me. I am asking you now, through a process where the answer is documented. Sebastian stared at her. You think I'm stealing from my own family? I have not accused you of stealing. Then what are you accusing me of? Deciding that I did not need to know our family trust was backing a deal connected to Natalie. He stood near the window. The trust is not backing Natalie. It is supporting a fund acquiring a medical company. Natalie represents the seller. Does she get paid if it closes? Yes. An advisory fee. Did Diane approve the pledge? Sebastian said nothing. Evelyn felt the answer before he gave it. I believe the relationship was too remote to require her approval. You believed. Yes. So you made the decision about whether your own relationship counted. Sebastian's jaw tightened. I am the trustee. And the trust document created a second set of eyes for a reason. He walked out of the room. The trust itself had a history Evelyn had never fully appreciated. Sebastian's mother, Eleanor Whitmore, had created it after watching two branches of the family destroy each other over an inheritance. She had been a schoolteacher before marrying into money, and she distrusted the idea that wealth automatically made people wise. When the trust documents were signed, Eleanor had told Sebastian something Evelyn remembered only after the crisis began. Money needs more than an owner. It needs a witness. At the time, Evelyn thought she meant accountants. Now she understood the larger point. Eleanor died 18 months before Evelyn became pregnant. Her death changed Sebastian. He became quieter for a while, then even more decisive. The trust became one of the last responsibilities his mother had entrusted to him personally. Ruth believed that history mattered. Sometimes people become most controlling around the responsibilities they are most afraid of failing, she said. Evelyn looked at the trust summary. That makes it better? No. It makes it understandable. Better comes after behavior changes. Ruth had a gift for refusing both cruelty and excuses. When Evelyn told her that Sebastian insisted the acquisition could improve patient care, Ruth did not mock him. Maybe he's right. Evelyn frowned. You're supposed to be on my side. I am on your side. Your side does not require the investment to be bad. That irritated Evelyn for half a day. Then she realized why it mattered. If Sebastian had chosen a terrible investment, he could blame bad judgment. If the investment was good, he had to confront the harder truth. Even a good result did not give him the right to bypass the structure created to protect other people. A week before the formal trust conference, Sebastian's older uncle Thomas visited. Thomas was 74 and had been one of the original trust advisors before retiring from the family business. He walked with a cane, wore the same brown shoes year after year, and had never been impressed by Sebastian's money because he remembered Sebastian at 13. He sat with Evelyn in the garden. "Your Aunt Ruth called me," he said. Evelyn raised an eyebrow. "She did." She asked whether Eleanor ever explained why she created the trust director role. "And did she?" Thomas nodded. She loved Sebastian. She also knew him. Evelyn almost smiled. Thomas looked toward the house. He was 16 when he decided to sell the family sailboat. What? He found a buyer, negotiated the price, and arranged the pickup before telling anyone. At 16, he thought the boat was costing too much to maintain. Was he right? Completely. Evelyn laughed despite herself. Thomas smiled. That was the problem. He was right about the boat and wrong about believing that being right made the boat his decision. The story felt almost too perfect. Did Eleanor stop the sale? Of course. What did Sebastian do? Argued for 3 days. Then admitted she had a point 10 years later. Evelyn looked toward the upstairs window of the nursery. So this isn't new. No, why didn't anyone tell me? Thomas considered that. Because habits can look like competence when they're making everyone money. The sentence landed hard. Sebastian's decisiveness had helped build his fortune. People praised the same trait that now threatened his marriage. Thomas rested both hands on his cane. Eleanor created the independent trust director safeguard because she did not want family affection to replace procedure. She believed good people still needed guardrails. Do you think Sebastian is a good person? Thomas looked at her directly. Yes. Evelyn waited. And good people can still do harmful things. She appreciated the answer. It gave her permission to love Sebastian without surrendering judgment. The next evening, she found him in the nursery, standing beside the crib. "You talked to Uncle Thomas," he said. "Yes." "He told you the sailboat story." "Yes." Sebastian groaned. "He tells everyone that story. Apparently not me until now." He touched the edge of the crib. "I hated that boat." "So I heard. It leaked. I also heard you were right." Sebastian looked at her. Evelyn continued. "And still not entitled to sell it by yourself." For a second, he almost laughed. Then his face became serious. "I know what you're trying to say." "Do you?" He sat in the rocking chair. "My entire career rewards speed. If I wait for everyone to agree, opportunities disappear. Then maybe you need to know which parts of life are not acquisitions." He looked down. "Our marriage." "Yes." "The trust." "Yes." "Our child." "Yes." Sebastian nodded slowly. It was not an apology, but it was the first time he named the categories himself. The accounting arrived 1 week later. Laura and an independent accountant reviewed it. No money had been stolen. The trust assets were still intact. The $600,000 was a contingent pledge, not a completed transfer. If the acquisition failed in certain ways, part of the pledged portfolio could be called. The risk was real but limited. The more important problem was process. Natalie's advisory firm would receive a success fee if the acquisition closed. Sebastian had known that. He had also known the independent trust director existed. He simply decided the relationship did not require review. Then another fact emerged. Natalie had asked. In an email produced during the accounting, she wrote, "Does Evelyn know the trust is part of the capital support? Given our history, I don't want surprises." Sebastian replied, "She trusts my judgment on these matters. The trust documentation is handled." Evelyn read the sentence 3 times. "She trusts my judgment." He had taken trust and turned it into permission. Ruth sat beside her. "That sentence hurts more than the hotel, doesn't it?" "Yes." "Because the hotel was suspicious." "This is clear." Evelyn nodded. Laura did not tell her to divorce. Diane Mercer did not tell her Sebastian had committed a crime. The accountant did not call the investment reckless. In fact, the medical company was legitimate and promising. The acquisition might succeed. That made the lesson harder for Sebastian. A good investment could still be handled badly. Diane called a formal trust conference. Sebastian attended with his attorney. Evelyn attended with Laura. Ruth came as Evelyn's support person. Natalie joined remotely with counsel because her fee and role were relevant to the conflict review. The meeting took place in a plain conference room with a long oak table, pitchers of water, and the quiet formality of people who understood that family money could become family damage if they stopped being precise. Diane began by reading the trust provision. Then she asked Sebastian one question. Why did you not request approval? He answered immediately. Because I did not believe Natalie's role created the type of relationship contemplated by the clause. Diane nodded. And who made that determination? I did. That is the difficulty. Sebastian leaned forward. The acquisition is sound. We are not here to decide whether the acquisition is sound. It matters. Of course it matters. It does not answer the governance question. Evelyn watched him struggle. Sebastian had built a career by being right early. He did not know what to do when being right about the investment did not make him right about the process. Diane turned to Natalie. Did you disclose your fee? Yes. To Mr. Whitmore? Yes. To the trust director? No. I was told the trust process had been handled. Natalie's voice was calm. I should have confirmed that independently. Diane nodded. Then she turned to Evelyn. Were you told the trust would support the acquisition? No. Did you approve it? No, Sebastian interrupted. Her approval was not legally required for every investment. Laura answered before Evelyn could. No one has claimed it was. The question is whether the independent approval provision applied. That distinction mattered. The meeting did not turn Evelyn into a trustee. It did not give her a veto she did not possess. It required the people who actually held authority to use it properly. Diane issued an interim direction under the trust's own terms. No additional pledge could be made. The existing contingent pledge would remain and used while an independent fiduciary evaluated whether it should be replaced. Sebastian would step aside from decisions specifically involving the Arbor transaction. A corporate trust company would act as special co-trustee for that matter. The medical acquisition did not collapse. It simply had to survive independent review. Sebastian hated the outcome. In the parking garage after the meeting, he confronted Evelyn. You embarrassed me. To whom? Diane. Laura. Natalie. My attorney. All of them already knew the facts. You made me look like I couldn't be trusted. Evelyn stared at him. I did not make the email say she trusts my judgment. He looked away. You know what I meant. Yes, Evelyn said. That is the problem. She got into Ruth's car and left. That night, Sebastian slept in his office downtown. Evelyn slept badly. Not because she feared the trust would vanish. Because she finally understood the emotional pattern beneath the financial one. Sebastian did not lie because he believed Evelyn was stupid. He lied because he believed certainty gave him moral permission. If he was convinced an outcome was good, he treated disagreement as an obstacle to manage. 3 days later, Natalie asked through Laura whether Evelyn would speak with her. Evelyn agreed to a video call with both attorneys present. Natalie looked tired. I am not having an affair with your husband, she said. Evelyn believed her. Not because she wanted to. Because the records supported it. Do you still have feelings for him? Natalie took a long breath. I have history with him. I have affection for who we used to be. I do not want your marriage. Why did you meet him at a hotel? The Sellers team was staying there. We had dinner in the lobby restaurant with 2 other advisors. I left before 10. Evelyn felt foolish for half a second, then stopped herself. Sebastian had created the suspicion by hiding the meeting. Natalie continued. I asked whether you knew about the trust because I did not want exactly this situation. But you accepted his answer. Yes. Why? Because the deal was moving quickly and because believing him was convenient. Evelyn respected the answer. Natalie did not pretend innocence required perfection. I should have insisted on seeing the approval, she said. I'm sorry. Evelyn nodded. Thank you. They did not become friends. They did not need to. The independent fiduciary reviewed the acquisition. The medical technology was real. The valuation was reasonable. Natalie's fee was within market range. The trust, however, did not need to be involved. Sebastian had enough separate assets to replace the contingent support without putting beneficiary assets behind the deal. He agreed, reluctantly at first, then fully, to substitute his own investment capital. The trust was released from the pledge. The special co-trustee remained in place for related transactions. Diane required a written conflict review procedure for future trust investments within the authority granted by the trust instrument. The result was quieter than Sebastian had feared. The acquisition survived, Whitmore Capital kept operating, and the family trust was removed from a risk it did not need to carry. The family's money was protected because the safeguards in the trust were finally used before a contingent risk became a loss. For Evelyn, the marriage remained the harder problem. Sebastian returned home, but not to the primary bedroom. They agreed to a written separation plan through counsel while the pregnancy continued. It covered household expenses, medical costs, privacy, and the practical arrangements surrounding the baby. They did not call it a permanent ending. They did not call it reconciliation. They called it time with rules. At their first counseling session, Sebastian tried to explain the investment again. The therapist stopped him. Evelyn is not asking whether the investment was good. Sebastian looked irritated. I understand that. Do you? He was silent. Evelyn spoke. You keep returning to the value of the deal because if the deal was good, you want the method to become forgivable. Sebastian looked at her. Yes. The honesty surprised both of them. Why? The therapist asked. Sebastian stared at the floor. Because I have spent my whole life believing results justify confidence. Where did you learn that? My father. That answer opened a door. Sebastian's father had been brilliant, demanding, and certain. He ran the Whitmore family business until a stroke forced retirement. He praised Sebastian when he made quick decisions and mocked hesitation. By 30, Sebastian had learned that asking for permission felt like weakness. Evelyn listened without excusing him. Understanding origin was not the same as removing responsibility. Weeks passed. The baby grew. Sebastian changed in small ways. Before scheduling a prenatal appointment around his work, he asked. Before moving money into a separate education account, he sent the proposal to Evelyn and Laura. Before inviting his mother's old friends to a baby gathering, he asked whether Evelyn wanted them there. Sometimes the questions seemed almost painfully basic. That was the point. He was practicing consent where he once assumed agreement. Their son Noah was born on a clear morning in May. Evelyn labored for 14 hours. Ruth was with her from the beginning. Sebastian joined when Evelyn asked. He did not perform fatherhood. He fetched ice. He held a leg when the nurse told him where to stand. He cried when Noah cried. Afterward, he sat beside Evelyn's bed and looked at the tiny sleeping child. I want him to trust me, he said. Evelyn was exhausted. Then don't teach him that trust means never asking questions. Sebastian nodded. I won't. You will sometimes. He looked at her. We all repeat ourselves under stress. The question is whether you notice and repair it. He smiled faintly. You sound like Ruth. Best compliment you've given me in months. For the next year, Evelyn and Sebastian remained separated inside 2 homes. He moved to a townhouse 10 minutes away. They continued counseling. The trust stayed under independent oversight for related transactions. Whitmore Capital completed the medical acquisition using capital that did not rely on the family trust. Natalie's fee was approved through the proper process. Her professional relationship with Sebastian became transparent and limited. Evelyn returned slowly to her own work. Before pregnancy, she had managed grants for a maternal health nonprofit. She began consulting part-time from home. The work reminded her that she had a mind outside the marriage. Ruth helped with Noah one afternoon a week and refused to be called a babysitter. I am intergenerational governance, she announced. Evelyn laughed so hard she woke the baby. Sebastian became a more patient father than Evelyn expected. He learned feeding schedules. He attended pediatric appointments. He stopped bringing expensive gifts every time he felt guilty. When Noah was 10 months old, Sebastian arrived with nothing but a bag of groceries and asked whether Evelyn needed help. That impressed her more than jewelry would have. The period after Noah's birth tested the change more than any conference room had. Newborn life was made of interruptions. Sleep vanished. Schedules failed. Plans that looked reasonable at breakfast were useless by lunch. Sebastian hated disorder. At first, he tried to solve it. He ordered a second bassinet without asking. He arranged a night nurse for 3 evenings. He changed a pediatric appointment because of an investor call. Each choice was defensible. Each one repeated the same old pattern. Evelyn did not explode. She pointed it out. You did it again. Sebastian looked genuinely confused the first time. The bassinet. The deciding. He stared at the unopened box. I thought it would help. It might. Ask. He took a breath. Do you want to keep it? No. The one we have is fine. A year earlier, he would have argued that returning it was inefficient. Now he printed the return label. The night nurse conversation was harder. You haven't slept, he said. I know. You need help. I agree. Then why are you upset? Because you hired someone before asking whether I was comfortable having a stranger in the house overnight. Sebastian stopped. Then he canceled the arrangement and asked Evelyn to interview candidates with him. They eventually hired the same nurse. That became one of the strangest lessons of the year. Often, the problem was not Sebastian's proposed result. It was the missing invitation. Ruth noticed the difference. One afternoon, while Noah slept against her shoulder, she said, "He's learning." Evelyn poured tea. "Yes." "Does that mean you're taking him back?" "No, good." Evelyn laughed. Ruth smiled. "I mean good that his improvement is not a debt you have to repay." That mattered. Sebastian's work on himself belonged to him. Evelyn's decision belonged to her. When Sebastian finally asked about reconciliation 18 months after the first text, Evelyn was able to answer from choice rather than guilt. He asked whether she would consider trying again. They sat on Evelyn's porch while Noah slept inside. "I still love you," he said. "I know. I want our marriage." "I know. What do you want?" The old Sebastian would have presented a plan. This Sebastian waited. Evelyn looked at the rain beginning beyond the porch roof. "I want a relationship where I never discover my future in a report after you have already decided it." He nodded. "I want the trust to remain independently reviewed." "Yes." "I want my work to matter even when it complicates your schedule." "Yes." "I want you to understand that asking is not weakness." Sebastian smiled sadly. "I'm trying." "I know. Is that enough?" "Not forever. Maybe for the next step." They began a trial reconciliation. Sebastian did not move home. They added one dinner a week, then a weekend breakfast, then family outings. The pace frustrated him. He did not rush it. That mattered. A year later, he moved back into the family home. The trust structure did not revert. The independent co-trustee remained. Evelyn kept her own advisor. Sebastian continued therapy. They were not recreating the marriage they had before. They were building one in which certainty had competition. There was one more condition Evelyn insisted on before the trial reconciliation began. She wanted a yearly family finance meeting that had nothing to do with crisis. Sebastian blinked when she proposed it. "With Laura? Not unless we need her." "With us. Accounts, insurance, the trust, Noah's education savings, major plans. No mysteries." That sounds very unromantic. So did discovering a $600,000 pledge while pregnant. He winced. Fair. The first meeting took place at the dining table on a Sunday morning. Noah sat in a high chair throwing pieces of banana onto the floor. Sebastian brought printed statements. Evelyn brought coffee. They reviewed what each account was for, who had authority, and which decisions required outside approval. Halfway through, Sebastian started explaining an investment Evelyn had not asked about. She held up a hand. "I understand the product. I'm asking whether there are any relationships connected to it." He paused, checked the disclosure page, and answered, "No, good." Next, it was not glamorous. It was exactly the kind of ordinary transparency their old marriage had lacked. Later, Sebastian admitted that those meetings made him more careful at work too. When a colleague said, "Everyone is comfortable with this," he began asking, "Did we ask them, or are we assuming?" Evelyn did not take credit for changing his company. She simply noticed that private accountability had begun to travel with him. Years later, Noah would not remember the trust conference or the hotel notification. He would remember smaller things. His father asking his mother before changing vacation plans. His mother saying no without fear. His great-aunt Ruth bringing tax forms to Thanksgiving because she thought paperwork was festive. He would grow up believing that families could discuss money without shame and disagreement without punishment. On the second anniversary of Noah's birth, Ruth gave him a small wooden box. Inside was no money, only 3 handwritten cards. "Ask. Listen. Write it down." Sebastian laughed when he saw them. "Is this for Noah or me?" Ruth looked over her glasses. "Yes." Evelyn laughed with her. That scene became one of her favorite family memories because no one in it was pretending the past had vanished. They could joke about what had happened because the lesson had become part of the family vocabulary instead of a secret everyone stepped around. Noah would inherit assets one day. Evelyn hoped he would also inherit the humility to know that being responsible for something did not mean owning every decision about it. Natalie eventually left the medical company after the acquisition integration was complete. She sent Evelyn a final note. "Thank you for insisting on a process that protected everyone, including people who did not realize they needed protection." Evelyn kept that note in a file marked closed. She liked the word. Not forgotten. Closed. It meant the lesson could remain without controlling every future decision. Sebastian never again used the phrase, "she trusts my judgment," to mean Evelyn had agreed. Sometimes, at meetings, he caught himself about to say, "My wife is fine with it." Then he stopped. I need to ask her. For a man who once believed power meant moving before anyone could object, those 5 words represented more change than any public apology. The message that began the story had been 6 words. By then, Evelyn no longer feared the sound of difficult questions. She had learned that clarity was not conflict. It was part of care. "Don't wait up. I'm working late." Evelyn's reply had been 5. "Tell her I said hi." She once thought the most important woman in that exchange was Natalie. She was wrong. The most important person was Evelyn herself, the version of Evelyn who finally heard what secrecy was telling her. She did not win by proving an affair. There was no physical affair. She did not win by taking Sebastian's company or ruining an acquisition. She did not win by turning a family trust into a weapon. She won by insisting that money, marriage, and love all required boundaries strong enough to survive inconvenient questions. Sebastian's greatest consequence was not financial. He lost the privilege of being trusted automatically. His greatest opportunity was that Evelyn allowed him to earn some of that trust back. Slowly. With records. With questions. With consent. With time. For Evelyn, the meaning of the ending was simple. Not a perfect marriage restored. A more honest family built. And a son who would grow up learning that protecting someone never means taking away their right to know.